Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar. I'll get the admin out of the way straight away. So as always, this session is going to be recorded and slides will be sent out to recipients at the end of the webinar through our marketing department. So please do look out for those in your inbox. I can see quite a few familiar names on the attendees list today, so hello to everyone. I've been excited for this one since we announced it. And for me, really excited. FSLogix has really established itself as an essential vendor within the end user computing workspace. Now, not only have we got some great content lined up, we've also got a guest presenter direct from the vendor themselves, who I've watched a number of times now, and his presentations are always insightful. His passion really comes through when he's presenting. So hello to Mr. Jim Moyle. How are you doing today, Jim?
Pretty good, thanks. Pretty good. Bit hot, but that's fine. Yeah,
you're coping though, right?
Just about.
Good man, good man. Well, I can say that I'm blessed in the office today in a meeting room with aircon, and I certainly know that you're at home suffering badly without it at the moment. So fair play to you for sticking it out, mate.
That is why I'm sitting here just wearing my pants, actually.
And that's why we're not doing webcams today.
Exactly.
So you're going to like this bit, Jim. I was going to go over the long list of accolades and achievements, but figured that we're trying to keep it within the hour. So I can't absolutely say everything about you, so I've cherry picked a few out instead. So Jim is an awe-inspiring character within the end user computing space. To start off with, he's the founder and lead SIG of the UK Citrix user group community. Now, the CUGC is an absolutely excellent community aiming to help maximize the value of Citrix and partner products. I've been to a few of the user groups myself, always come out of them feeling buzzed and excited to be involved in such a great community. Now, the UK CUGC isn't all that Jim does. He's also been awarded with the highest of Citrix accolades out there, known as a Citrix Technology Professional. And this isn't a recent thing for Jim either. He's been awarded the CTP status for the last 7 years, which is an incredible achievement in itself. And Jim, I don't know how many of the 50 CTPs out there sort of have a 7-year backbone to them, but I'm pretty sure it's a handful as opposed to all 50.
Yeah, absolutely, and there is a certain amount of turnover in that group as people move on to different things, and we have new exciting presenters and people who contribute to the community come on and join the program. So it's always great to see new blood in the program as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think it's absolutely incredible what you've done with the user group. Like I say, I really enjoy attending them. It's something that having a big push at Axess systems, get more people involved in them as well, and not only that, man, I feel like I'm sort of giving you a bit of a best man speech here, Jim. Not only that, Jim, for the last year or so, has been working as a technical evangelist at FSLogix. So whilst maintaining his contributions to the Citrix world we live in, he's also been developing the FSLogix world as well, which is massively exciting vendor from my point of view at this moment. So I think it's safe to say that Jim's bringing some ultimate pedigree to this webinar today. So yeah, how was that, Jim? Did I miss much about you?
No, I think that's nice about me for the time being, but thank you very much.
Good stuff. All right, now I can move on to my favorite thing and start talking about myself for a little while. So you guys already know me on the webinar. We've done a few of these now. I'm a big Citrix advocate, Citrix certified expert in virtualization. That's really my field. That's my go-to. Love the XenApp and desktop, NetScaler, workspace, the whole Zen mobile and share file product range is really my bread and butter. That's what Axess Systems is about. And within that sort of Citrix vendor portfolio, we also have these accelerator products that really optimize the best of Citrix solutions. And of course, FSLogix is absolutely on that list. So, all right, before I let Jim do his thing, I'm going to give you guys a little bit of an agenda and a little story on how I stumbled across FSLogix in the first place. So here we go. So I'm the one that's got off lightly today. Jim's really going to be doing most of the talking, and his content is really going to cover off the full suite of FSLogix apps today, which includes the application masking, the Java redirection, the profile containers, and the A365 containers. So as always, during any time during this webinar, any questions you have, get them raised in the GoToWebinar control panel that you've joined in through, and we'll either answer them on the fly, we'll save them for the end of the webinar. We're going to try and keep it as interactive as possible today. So now I thought I'd explain how I first stumbled across FSLogix. Arguably a little late to the party, to say the least. So, you know, they've existed since 2012, 2013. Kev Goodman, CEO and founder, established a company around that sort of time, whereas I was really introduced to them a couple of years ago. I was working with an accountancy firm, and they had recently migrated all of their on-premise Exchange data to Office 365. You know, it was a great cost-effective move for them. However, as a large Citrix XenApp house, utilizing provisioning technologies and having stateless machines, the moment the migration was complete, the end users started to complain about the performance of Outlook within their XenApp sessions. Now, after meeting with the IT team and discussing the config and setup, they sort of approached Axess Systems. Myself, one of the account managers, went down and meet them. We all actually agreed that this was an expected behavior from the way they'd done the migration. We got Outlook configured in online mode, and the users' mailboxes were downloading every time we opened Outlook, and folders went populated and dragged content down on demand through the wire. So we kind of agreed with the IT team and the users that it sucked. But how do we change it? Well, we could obviously enable the cached exchange mode within Outlook, right? Well, that's fine, but there's, you know, Microsoft are a little bit weird about supporting the OST files in certain locations, such as redirected folders, etc. So, you know, we was kind of left with, we could store it in the profile, but then all of a sudden my profile has ballooned, and, you know, I've gone from you know, we work hard to trim down the profiles in Citrix UPM, in WEM, use various technologies to keep the profile nice and trim. And we've just put an OST file or PST file in there that's 4 gig in size, 10 gig in size. Heck, you know, I've just migrated a bunch of our users' mailbox data to 365 within the last year, and one of our directors had a 17 gig mailbox. All of a sudden that data is in the profile for those users. And my logon times have just gone from 20 seconds to 4 minutes. You know, it's not good at all. So I went back to the drawing board with this accountancy firm, and that's when I first found FSLogix. Now, after being in touch with FSLogix and understanding that they had a containerization product called A365 containers, I got really excited. And it turns out that there's this vendor out there that has a product that lets me store data in VHDX files, and I could mount them as a Windows junction to the XenApp servers, and I could use that as my storage for the OST and PST files. Now, this was a massive game changer for me when talking to customers about Citrix and Office 365 solutions. And I'll be honest, you know, since then I've not really stopped talking about those solutions. So that's really how I stumbled across FSLogix, how I became a user of FSLogix, and how I became a big fan and a big advocate, and forever talking about them. So I'm going to be quiet for a little while now and let Jim wow you guys with what he knows and what he does at FSLogix. So I'm going to try and do some GoToWebinar trapeze in Jim and make you a presenter.
Thanks very much.
All over to you, Pam.
Cool. So, all right. As we just said, so we started out in 2013, and the first product that we brought out was the app masking, and then we moved on to Java redirection, and then to profiles and Office 365, and the newest product, which we'll call Cloud Cache, as soon as it's GA, which is very shortly, and we'll dig into the new and exciting stuff at the end of this. We'll try and keep any sort of marketing slides to the absolute minimum here, so we'll go fairly pure tech as quick as we can. First off, application masking. So this is not an application delivery technology. This is an application control technology. It works on physical, virtual, and cloud. Everything we do works in all three locations, physical, virtual, and cloud. Now, a lot of the products are more designed around EUC, desktop virtualization, that sort of thing, but there are use cases for everything outside of that as well. So, application masking, what does it do? Well, it hides things and it redirects things. And the hiding is what people mostly use this for. And the point is to reduce the number of golden images you have. And also if you're using any kind of app delivery technology, you know, app volumes, app V, app layering, to reduce the amount of layers as well. And it works by hiding an application or part of an application from the OS. So we can, so let's take an example of Office. And you've got a whole load of plugins for Outlook or whatever it is. And usually to make sure you get the right users, the right plugins, then essentially you're going to have to either do multiple golden images or multiple AppV packages, etc. With us, we can hide individual plugins on a per user basis. So only the user gets the plugins, and you only have to install the application once, either to the golden image or package it once for the app delivery. So we can also use it for device-based licensing, and we'll go into that in just a second. So seeing this is much easier than talking about it. So we're just going to show a little video. Now, this is Acrobat Reader. There's a little lag on the video, don't worry about it. We're going to have a look. There's the file type associations, it's in the file system. And then this is the rule editor. And these rules are automatically generated. It's a one-click thing. And now we're just going to hide that app using the rules, and we see it's gone from the file system. The file type association is gone, and it's gone from add remove programs as well. And we can assign that rule on user group, process, IP address, computer, OU, or environment variable. So that means that as the user logs on, they will either see it or not. And as I say, it's gone from the registry and the file system and everywhere else as well. So even your audit programs won't be able to pick it up if it's hidden by us. The environment variable assignment is cool. And the reason that's cool is for Project Visio or other device-based licensing products. So as you probably know, if you're still on device-based licensing, now there are subscriptions for Project Visio, but a lot of people are still on device-based. And you've got a Citrix XenApp form. Now, if you connect from desktop 1 and you connect to your XenApp server and you can launch Project Visio, that's great. And if your user can then move to desktop 2, connect to XenApp, and then run Project Visio, well, that means that you need to license both of those endpoint devices. And if your user can sit at any PC in your organization or from home, log in and use Project Visio, then you need to license all of those endpoints. So you might only want 10 people to have those tools, but if they can sit at 2,000 desks, then you need 2,000 licenses. Now, one of the handy things that Citrix does is that as you connect to a XenApp server, you get a client name environment variable, which tells you the name of the device you're connecting from. If we then hide or reveal that application, depending on the device they're connecting from, then we can then control that application on device-based licensing. Now, that is one of the three things that Microsoft needs for licensing control. So we work really hard hand in hand with Microsoft licensing to make sure that we're providing what they need. Restricting the application to the device is step 1. Step 2 is they need historical reporting. So they need to say what's been happening over the last X number of months, who's been connected from what device, or they don't care about who, just what devices have been connected. They also need to know, and this is step 3, that you're not breaking license reassignment rules. So the way it works is, if you've got user 1, you can say, well, they're moving desks. I want to reassign my Visio license from desktop 1 to desktop 4. That's fine. But then if they move again, you cannot then move that license again within X number of days, usually 90. And you need to be able to demonstrate to Microsoft that you're not breaking those rules either. If you have all 3 of those, then Microsoft will accept the solution in terms of licensing for device-based licensing. And the other, the Adobe suite, etc., are also the same way. Speaking of Adobe, they pull a good trick, which you've got to watch out for in XenApp. If you're doing AppV or something like that, you have to have the printer driver in the golden image. But you're licensed on the Adobe suite as to whether the user can see that printer driver, not whether they can launch the application. So the ability to hide the print driver is also crucial for Adobe licensing, and we can help you out with that as well. So that's application masking. Now then,
I think Jim, sorry mate, just to butt in there. I think that's some really useful insight into the way that Adobe and Microsoft are licensing their products as well. And like you say, that's did I hear you say that's officially acknowledged by Microsoft that will allow you to meet the criteria for the things like and project as well?
Absolutely, because that's the criteria that they gave to us that we needed to fulfill before they would approve of our method of license control.
Perfect. That's wicked. And also with the app masking, a good use case would be if you need multiple versions of Office on one master image, app masking actually caters for that as well.
Absolutely. You can't have multiple versions of Outlook, but the rest of the suite you can. The classic example of this is, you've got a finance department, they've written a whole lot of macros for Excel 2013, and they don't work on 2016, so everybody apart from those guys needs a different version of Excel. With us, you can install them both on the same golden image and then control access to different versions via app masking. So thank you for that.
Nice. No, yeah, that's cool. That is. I mean, going a little bit further into that one, is putting Microsoft to one side. Let's say we've got maybe an Oracle database that installed the application to communicate to that Oracle database is installed with a particular configuration. Could you use app masking to install multiple copies of the same app, but with a different configuration built into that installer as well?
So for the Oracle client, the way you do it is you at the beginning I said you got masking and redirection, and I've only really covered the masking. But the redirection part, so if it's making a call to an INI or an XML file on the hard drive, or making a call to the registry, we can actually say interrupt that call, reroute that to a different portion of the registry or the file system, and say your Oracle client for this person who's logging on gets this set of settings, and the Oracle client for another person who's logging on gets a different set of settings. So you can get really fine-grained in terms of how you want applications to act and the control you can exert over them. App masking is actually my favorite of all our products, just because it's so powerful and I can do so much with it. The trouble with it is nobody's Googling for it. Nobody's got. So it tends to be that people come to us for other products, and then when they realize what app masking can do, then they go, that's cool, I can solve a whole host of the problems that have been knocking around in my EUC environment for ages, just by utilizing the app masking stuff.
No, I hear you. Like you say, the 2 words there to pick out, it's powerful, and you can get real granular with it. I think, I'm with you. It sounds absolutely incredible when you're talking about it. So just a couple of questions thrown at you there. I'll leave you to crack on, mate.
That's all right. So Java version control is sort of like the baby brother of app masking. And if you have a Java problem, then you'll know about it. Because if you have a web app or a local app that requires different versions of Java, then right now your only solution is 2 golden images. This actually is about 50% deployed on physical, because on physical, the only solution is to give the person a second machine. Or there is some weird tricks you can play with app V and stuff, but it's really clunky and horrible. We actually had a police force who had 2 local applications that had incompatible versions of Java, and they were actually giving the officers 2 laptops just because of this Java problem. So we can have different versions of Java in a Windows IE tab. So you can have multiple tabs with multiple versions of Java, and also for locally installed apps. This is so binary, it's people either need it or they don't. If you don't need it, you don't care. And bear with me, we'll get to the next bit in a second. So just a small video on that. We can see in the top right that I've associated different programs with different versions of Java. It's just a little Java application that reports the version. So that's Java version 4. And this will be Java version 6, too small to see. And the next one will be Java version 5, also too small to see, but we'll zoom in and we can actually see that's 6 and 5. So that's how you can have multiple versions of Java, both for URLs and installed programs.
And I think that there, Jim, that's fair to say that's, you know, again, coming across really powerfully that that's all installed on the same master image at that point. That's absolutely what I can do.
So Office 365. Now, this is by far our most popular product in the way that people find us. So just as you were talking about your customer who had Office 365 and XenApp servers, problems with Office, that is across the board. Basically, if you have a Citrix or an RDSH or even a Horizon View deployment and you have Office 365, basically you need a solution for this. And it's only going to get worse. And the reason it's only going to get worse is because Microsoft have actually taken what I think is the right decision. And that decision is to push as much of the caches as possible down to the endpoint. And the reason for this is that they can't guarantee the latency between where you are and their local point of presence for Azure. And the way to get over latency is to cache as much as possible locally. So that means that the more local cache you have, the better your performance will be. Secondly, for Microsoft, effectively, they're removing resource consumption from Azure and pushing it down to the edge. Now that's going to cost them less in terms of resources in Azure. So this is something that they're going to continue to do and do more and more. And if you have a look at Teams, I mean, that's going to the extreme. Teams is a weird application in that it doesn't install the program files, it installs to your profile, and then it's got a massive cache in your profile as well. Not only have we got Outlook's OST, and you've got, as I just mentioned, Teams, but OneNote has a cache, Skype for Business has a big cache, and OneDrive, obviously OneDrive is cache. Now, without us, it is not possible to run OneDrive with a full sync client in a multi-user environment. Just won't work. With us, it works as if it's on your laptop. So nobody else can do that. The other thing that we include in this is search roaming. So we will enable a roaming of your index. So the whole thing used to be you have to turn search off. The reason being is because as soon as you log on somewhere else, search will run again. And I've seen environments where just indexing somebody's mailbox is taking 8 hours. Now, as we all know, every single logon to a XenApp server or stateless VDI is a first logon. So you're going to be, without us, you're going to be downloading all these caches, indexing all the stuff, and it's going to take ages, and it's going to be a horrible experience for the user. As is turning all the caches off, as you said in your example at the start. So what we do is we stick all of this cache data plus the search index inside of VHDX, stick that on the network, and as soon as the user logs in, that VHDX is mounted to the OS, and all of their caches and indexes are instantly available to the user. And there's no penalty in logon time because we are not copying things in and out. We're just mounting the VHDX and then using the filter driver to convince the OS that those files are local and not network-based. We've got some people who are doing some Me Too stuff, and effectively what they're doing is just running a PowerShell script, creating a VHD, doing a junction point on a folder, and Bob's your uncle, you've got data in a VHD. There's a big problem with this. The big problem is that Windows knows that that's a network location. Once it knows it's a network location, stuff doesn't work. As I said before, OneDrive won't work. Other things are strange, like protected files, protected mode. So if you open up a document from a network location, you can't, it won't open in protected mode. It will straight open up straight. And there's other weird things that happen as well. This works for everything from 2008 R2 right up to 2016, Windows 7, Windows 10.
I was just going to jump in there, Joe. Say, I was just going to try and preempt a couple of questions coming through. Hopefully coming through. There's a lot of Me Too out there at the moment with this sort of containerization, and FSLogix is just, you know, standing its ground. It's by far the most in-depth product that actually does this. Like you say, OneDrive's a real sticky wicket with some of them, and FSLogix is absolutely mastering that. Now, one of the questions that I sort of asked at the time was Citrix themselves in their 7.18 current release gave the ability to store your Outlook data file in a VHDX. That comes with many limitations. I think, Jim, you'll probably explain it a lot better than I will, but it's certain versions of Windows that it only runs on, certain applications, it's either 32-bit or 64-bit that it only runs on. There's lots of sort of prerequisites to actually making a solution like that work, whereas FSLogix has really simplified this solution, and it is absolutely outstanding to look at. So
the Citrix solution is fine as far as it goes, right? Now, as you say, it only supports a certain number, a certain version of OSs. And so they're doing it, so we're doing it in a filter driver. And they're actually doing it by DLL hooking the APIs. And there's an issue with that. And that is that they're using an undocumented API. Now, when you're using an undocumented API, fine, it may work, but anything that Microsoft says is an undocumented one, they reserve the right to change at any time, which means you can't rely on it keeping the same, which you can't rely on your thing working, which is why they've only got certain versions of the OS, because those are the versions that they've tested on, that APIs remain consistent. Or in fact, if it has changed, then they've built that change into the product. As you say, it's only a 32-bit version of 2016. It is indexing, good for them. It's quite hard to do, so I'm quite impressed that they managed to do it. And just the OST, so no OneNote, no Teams, no Skype for Business, no OneDrive are included. And there's a couple of things that I'm going to go into in a little bit that will really help you out in terms of the operational management of VHDs. So just see this in terms of so this is just a vanilla RDSH, right? And the simplest demo in the world. We're just going to log in. Obviously, it's RDSH, so it's a first-time logon. And we're just going to open up Outlook. And you can tell with Outlook by looking in the bottom right on in the notifications that it says connected to Microsoft Exchange rather than online with Microsoft Exchange. Connected to means you've got a local OST. In this case, this is 100% of the OST. And we can see with the indexing status that we're already pre-indexed as soon as we log on. Super quick, super easy, and just to show you how quickly it works. The logon was quick, by the way, even though we've got a few gigs of data inside this OST file. So I was just demonstrating that it doesn't matter how much data you've got in the VHDX, your logons are still going to be super quick.
I really like that demo. That's one of my favorite ones. I think you mentioned that masking is your favorite. I think this one's my favorite.
That's fair enough. So let's look at profile containers. Now, just before we go on to that, the Office 365 stuff, that works with any profile solution. You don't have to buy our profile solution. If you're using UPM or Ivanti or Res or whatever, then that will work absolutely fine with the Office 365 container solution. Now, and we split it out just for that, so that it would be universally easy to put it into your environment. Having said that, we do profiles as well. Now, the profiles work in exactly the same way as the Office 365, in that it's the data contained on a VHDX on a network share, and as the user logs in, we attach the VHDX and they have all of their profile data there. That means that you've now done a cool thing. You've now divorced your login time by the amount of data in your profile. And now those two things are independent. You can stop doing that operational management. So previously, actually you said you'd done a whole lot of work trimming down people's profiles, right? You've been using WEM, you know, you optimized it to the max so you can make sure those login times are super quick. Well, with this, you don't have to do that because you're just mounting, you're not copying. What tends...
Don't tell me this now, Jim. The amount of hours we've spent doing this.
I was remembering what you said, and I thought I'll bring that up later and just
bring it.
Yeah.
Fair play.
So all your data is in VHDX, mounted that logon. Now, so you can get rid of folder redirection. Yeah, you get rid of any problems, any management overhead you've got on the profiles, optimizing it like the unfortunate Ashley did previously.
Outrageous.
I know, it's terrible. The only folder redirection I would keep is your My Docs, just because the backup and restore and versioning of that, of those user-created documents, Office documents or whatever, have to be treated slightly different from stuff like app data or whatever. Most of the stuff contained in the Office 365 product, we will also roam here. Yeah, apart from one thing, which is the index, because the index is not part of the profile, because that's a per machine database and not a per user database. All right, so that's profile containers. Quick demo.
So within profile containers, sorry, John, I keep putting it just as you're about to demo.
Fine, don't worry about it.
Good man, good man. So with the profile containers, obviously we're jesting a little bit about the size of the profiles that we can grow, and we're sort of saying we sort of don't necessarily care how much data is in there as such. There are no issues with still running this alongside a UPM configuration just to keep it trimmed, just so users haven't got to go and find maybe, you know, terabytes of storage potentially for their user base just for their profiles. It still sort of works with those policies in place within UPM as well.
Absolutely not. So this would be a UPM replacement. Now it works super well with WEM. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can do, so we're not doing user environment management. Yeah, it's purely the profile stuff. If you want to manage that, then you use another product. And if you're already on Citrix, then you've got access to WEM. So I would say use WEM. If you do want to keep the size of your profile down in terms of, you know, you've got storage constraints, you can do exclusions for our profiles, right? So you can say, actually, do not roam this this large, you know, set of temp files that an application uses, right? And then you can keep it keep the capacity down if you're constrained in that way.
Excellent. And you can set limits to profile growth maybe within policies within there?
Nope. We're trying to keep it as simple as possible. We just tend to find that people, they don't even worry about it anymore. Yeah.
Yep. Fair play. Right. Like it.
All right. So demo. Yes. So we're just going to log on to somewhere where the profile is actually inside the data center, and we're logging on in a couple of seconds now. Admittedly, in my lab, I don't have a load of GPOs or a lot of stuff people have in the enterprise, but you can see what you can achieve or get close to. This is logging into a profile that's stored on AWS S3. So now there's a whole bunch of latency, and S3 is a very poorly performing bit of storage, but we've got some optimizations in there. And now that is a VDA on-prem and a profile in S3. Now let's do something equally cool. And let's do exactly the same thing, but instead of AWS, let's use Azure. And now we're logging into Azure. Well, actually, the VDA is again on-prem, but the profile's in Azure. Now we can see on the top left that I've actually got 2 gigs worth of PVS ISOs sitting on the desktop. And obviously I've got a reasonable amount of latency to my local point of presence. So it shows you that the advantages of mounting over copying. Now let's just check here. All right, we'll have a look at where that VHD is, and we can see that's on AWS. Now I'm actually going to make a mistake here and detach it. Oops, but software's clever enough to realize I've done that and reconnect it instantly. And we can see that this one is on Azure. All right.
And these videos haven't really been doctored in any way. That performance is genuine, which we're seeing right now, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely. So I couldn't be asked to doctor videos like that at all. It's much easier just showing it working.
Absolutely. This is it working. I like that. It's absolutely how it works.
Yeah. Now, as I say, right, you know, there's NAFL GPOs or GPPs or any of the other stuff that is difficult in the enterprise when you're trying to optimize logins, right? So that's the best you're going to get, you know. So something to aim for, shall we say?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Microsoft completely supports this for Office 365, for profiles, for app masking, for licensing. We work super closely with Microsoft. We know those teams very, very well indeed. So everything that we do is absolutely blessed and supported by Microsoft and by Citrix as well. So if there's any doubt about that, we can always get somebody at Microsoft to come and speak to your customers. That's fine. Just to reinforce that. Now, I said previously that there were some Me Too people coming along, and one of the first things we do that other people don't tend to do, we've already seen, which is that when I accidentally disconnected the VHD and it auto reconnected. So obviously users aren't going to be accidentally detaching VHDs, but your storage may have a blip or your network may have a blip, and you don't want everything to fall over when that happens. First one there, concurrent profile access. Now, almost everybody thinks that they don't have this, but they do. And this is not just concurrent profile, this would be concurrent for the Office 365 as well. Now, unless you've got your maximum number of sessions for that delivery group per user set to 1, you probably have concurrent sessions, because either your user is logging on for a different device where you know, there's a different Cypher suite, for instance, and you can't do session sharing. Or if you're using load evaluators, if you've got a disconnected session on one XenApp server and the load evaluator doesn't want to give you that disconnected session because that server is very busy, it will give you a new session and wait for that old discode session to time out. So being able to handle concurrent access to VHDs, Now, normally you can only mount a VHD to one OS, but we have figured out how to mount it to multiple OSs so that you can now do concurrent access. We can also set exactly the ACLs you need. Yeah, instead of some people setting it full, yeah, we can lock it down to however you want. Multiple VHD locations for fallback, and per user and per group as well. So if you want to say user A goes to that storage, user B goes to that storage, user A has 10 gigs worth of OST and user B has 5 gigs worth of OST, and you want to control the size of VHDs, we can do that as well. And this is crucial, this last one. So loads of Citrix users, I think probably about 60–70% use PVS. Now, if you're logging on and you've had a storage issue, and Outlook is expecting a OST file in, see users, app data, local, blah, 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 and it doesn't see it there because you can't see the VHD, so it's not there. It will then download that user's OST to the C drive. Now, if you've got a XenApp server with a 20 gig write-cache drive, and you've got 20 users with 5 gigs of data that all of a sudden downloading that data to the C drive, and that's happening across your farm, what's going to happen? Well, your entire farm is going to fall over.
Hey, my maths isn't great, but even I can work that one out.
So what we do, and this is because we've been at this for quite a long time now, you know, you develop these features which are great to have for the ongoing management and running the environment. So what we do is we fall Outlook back to online mode if there's a problem with the storage, to prevent these PVS issues that you get with running out of space in your write-cache drive. So as soon as there's an issue, user is down out online mode. When the storage comes back, next time they log on, they'll be back to cache mode. They may not even notice that there's been a storage outage, but you've managed to make sure that they can work and carry on. So extremely useful features for Office 365 and for profiles. Cool. So those are the 4 products, and we have an extremely cool thing called Cloud Cache, and this applies to Office 365 and the profile containers, basically the things that require a VHDX. So we're going to solve a problem that you've had since NT4, and that problem is having profiles in multiple locations, completely synced, with invisible failover between the two of them. And we can do that now with Cloud Cache. And what we're doing is we're splitting the writes between the 2 locations. And if one fails, then the other one invisibly takes over. So these are active. The user won't notice. Now, right now, this is for SMB. So any UNC path. So if you've got dual or multiple data centers and you've got users who need to go from one to the other, or even, you know, you've got an app that comes from New York because the data is local to New York, and you put your XenApp server sensibly close to your data, but your user's desktop and their profile are in London, so they're logging on there and dragging the app in. This way you can have multi-session access to multiple locations, and their profile data is always local, so you're not doing that double hop across the Atlantic that you see so many times and has so many performance consequences right now. Well, that's pretty good, but we can, as you saw in the demo, the profile demo, we can also access cloud storage natively. So this is outbound over 443, so no firewall issues. It will be encrypted at rest and on the fly. And now you can have not just 2 data centers, but you can also have a backup to cloud storage, or even if you're moving to Citrix Cloud and you've got some VDAs in Azure or AWS, now you can use that local cloud storage. And you see, we're using Blob and S3. So those are 2 mid-tier storage locations, which means that you're not paying quite so much for the storage. Now, the problem with cloud storage is you're not just paying for the storage itself, but you're also paying for reads and writes into it. And what those reads and writes actually are REST puts and gets. So now we've got a problem, right? We're paying for throughput, and the same as the Office 365 issue, right? We don't know the latency to our local point of presence. So to get around that, same way that Microsoft has done with Office 365, they will put a local cache in. And that means, and that can be either on the local drives or on nearline storage. Now we've got the local cache, we can get around the latency to those bits of cloud storage. What it also does is enable an asynchronous write. An asynchronous write means we can batch writes up. So you remember when I said that it's REST puts and gets that you're paying for? So it's puts that cost about 10x a get. So writes cost 10 times the amount of a read. So you really want to optimize for writes to save yourself money on cloud storage. And effectively what we do is we batch up those writes, and that means that we can send a block size that is the maximum possible for that bit of cloud storage in terms of cost. So you're reducing costs both by using a mid-tier storage and by batching writes up, so you're not paying so much for throughput. Cool. So now we've got profiles in multiple locations and cloud. So now that local cache. Well, right now that's just hot data, yeah? So it's a read cache, and we've also got a buffer for writes as well. But imagine instead of that just being hot data, if that was now 100% of your profile. Well, now you've got your entirety of profile stored in a VHC locally. You can take that offline, so it covers your laptop use case as well. So now you've got a solution, a profile solution that works multi-geo, on-prem, failover between data centers, in the cloud, and offline, all synced together. Now, there is an extra charge for some of those features. If you've already got Office 365 or profiles, the left-hand side is going to cost you nothing. So, storage continuity, optimized cloud storage costs. I don't really like the reduced file server load one, but fine. That's built into the profile and Office 365 containers. So the add-on essentially is multiple locations. So if you think of built-in is one location and add-on is multiple locations. And that's available. So the use case for profiles is a lot bigger than for the Office 365, because why would you want caches to be in multiple locations when the source of truth is somewhere else? You just rebuild the caches, who cares in a disaster? But for profiles, that's not true, right? Your source of truth is actually inside that user's profile, not stuck somewhere else. And this way you can get global DR, storage location moves, DAS onboarding, all kinds of cool stuff you can do with profiles and cloud cache. This is a little demo of that. So it's a little script which I wrote on a conference floor somewhere. I can't even remember where. It's just copying and deleting a whole lot of files. And we can see from perfmon that we're actually chucking those files across to the two locations, the two shares on the right-hand side, and you can see the batching mechanism that I was talking about before, as we take those writes and make sure that they're optimized in the way that they're writing storage. So we're going to do something fairly brutal. We're going to disconnect the network from that. So remember that it's writing to two locations over the network. So presumably it's going to die. Well, in fact, we're still running the script. We're not chucking any data anymore because we've no network connectivity, but actually we're using that local cache to keep that session alive and make sure that those writes and those reads are coming from that local cache. And if we then re-enable that network connection, then as soon as we realize that that network's enabled, and we're going to use that automatic VHD reattach feature that we have, right? So now we've seen that those VHDs are there, they're available again, we've reattached, and now we're syncing that data back to the multiple locations. And the whole time, that script has been running. There's no interruption to that script. So even though you've lost storage, you've lost network, you've lost everything, your users still kept working. So that's the little demo for Cloud Cache. And I think that's just about everything I had for you today. Feel free to hit me up on Twitter or email or whatever. I'm sure the guys at Axess can equally help. But yeah, is there any questions?
No, I mean, thanks for that, Jim. I mean, the Cloud Cache stuff, I think, you know, it's obviously very, very new. Is it general availability yet?
So Cloud Cache will be, it's on tech preview now, and GA will be before Ignite, which is end of September. So Microsoft Ignite is their worldwide customer conference. And the reason why that's a hard deadline for us is because they want us up on stage with them at Ignite.
Nice.
So yeah, we better be ready for then, right?
Are you getting the pleasure of standing up on stage with them then, or will that be one of your colleagues?
I think that might be our CTO. He's going to take the kudos from Microsoft for doing such a cool thing. Now, you know, if I trip him up on the way to the stage, I might get to do it, but that's fine.
Fair play. No, I like the sound. You know, I don't mean to generalize, I never do, but you know, instead of a single storage location, you know, having multiple locations on-prem, in the cloud, and let Cloud Cache take care of the rest. You know, that's a little tagline from the blog about the announcement for FSLogix. I think it sounds like it's really is going to take off. We have had a couple of questions come through, so I'll throw a couple at you, Jim. What does the cache look like? Is it just the VHDX file, or just the content in app data, data?
So it's just a VHDX file. And effectively, it covers the entirety of the profile, not just app data. So anything that is not using folder redirection will be in that VHDX file, and that will be synced across multiple locations. Just on that, right? There's no servers here. This is all client-based. There's no SQL service, there's no application service, there's no web servers. There is nothing. It's all client-based.
Nice, like it. Another question that came through was, is the cache torn down at logoff? Is it completely torn down at logoff? What persists at logoff?
So you've got two options here. So if you're using a local drive, then you want that cache to be torn down at logoff, and then it will repopulate, you know, in the background as to what the hot data is and that sort of thing. Or you can use nearline. So if you've got some kind of fairly fast storage near to your XenApp service, you can redirect that cache to that nearline storage, and then that will persist between session log on and log off, if that's useful for your users. So you can have it either way.
Perfect. That sounds good. Well, I have just stolen the session back. I've just got a couple more bits, and then I'll obviously do the thank you. So from you guys joining in today, what next? Standard access system stuff. You've seen this all before. You know, we've got our advice hours sessions that we run weekly. You'll get an invite out to join in. We can discuss any sort of technical content as long as it's within that virtualization, end user computing workspace. It's just technical people on technical calls putting customers together to talk to each other about problems that you may have. You guys that are joined in today that don't have a support contract with us will be getting an invite out to join us on the next advice hour session as well. And call to action from an FSLogix point of view, you can get eval licenses straight from the link below, info.fslogix.com /request-and-evaluation. Jim, I can't remember, is it 30-day eval, 60-day eval?
So it's 30-day eval.
30-day eval, perfect. So anybody wanting to see it, try it, that's the first port of call, get in touch with us and we'll help out. We'll do some, we'll do some evangelizing like Jim's done today, do some designing, do some implementing, we'll get it in on your environments and show you how it can make benefit. Axess Systems capabilities, again, a lot of you already know we're all about the Citrix world. So readiness assessments, performance assessments, security assessments. Our consultancy and engineering teams are all about Citrix and virtualization products and all the acceleration products that we know and love. And obviously we have our support services and customized support contracts for anybody wanting any sort of third-party assistance support in their environment. We've done questions, so I'm not going to grab any more. Jim, I just want to say thank you again, as always, very insightful. Really enjoyed listening to you talk about it. I think FSLogix is an incredible vendor, and I want to be doing an awful lot more with them in the future. And hopefully our customers have heard that messaging today. So thank you so much for your time, mate.
That's all right. That's all right. I'm just going to use this last minute or so to plug the UK Citrix user group as well. If you just stick UK Citrix group into Google, then the top result will be us, and we'll be announcing the next date of the next meetup will be probably September, and will probably almost certainly be in York. And then the winter one will be in London. So look out for stuff. And if you fancy coming along, then that'd be cool. See you.
I couldn't recommend them enough either. Jim does incredible work. You know, what he does for the user group is incredible. The events, you get such respected opinions and people coming and talking at those events. The content's always incredible. And if you hang around long enough, you normally get a free beer at the end as well. So why wouldn't you want to go to them, right? Excellent.
Absolutely. All right. Yeah, classic mistake of just walking away while I'm on mute.
Good man. All right. Well, look, it's been great. I really enjoyed it. You guys will get a recording. Thank you ever so much for everybody's time, and look out for the next invite to the next webinar. So thanks ever so much.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers. Bye-bye.